And I went there randomly one evening, and they were having a class on mediumship. And I almost walked out, but the teachers pulled me in, and I'm so glad that they did. And that night, it was revealed to me what was going on inside of me, inside of my mind. My emotional state was validated from spirit and from the person sitting in front of me. So at the time, I was actually training to be an opera singer. So I had no intention at all of being a medium. But with anything, with a true calling, it chooses you, and you don't usually choose it. So it was quite an experience. And ever since that moment, when I was 18 and having that experience, I still was having a tremendous amount of fear and doubt about this. So what did I do? I went to this Conservatory of Music in San Francisco, and spirit followed me, of course. And I found myself connecting with people at school, faculty, people from all around the world, actually. So when I was done with my studies, it was very evident and very clear what my true purpose was in this world. And so I listened to spirit, I trusted them, and I came out of the closet, for lack of better words. And ever since that moment, the word spread very quickly. I've had some amazing opportunities to travel and to teach and to help. And I basically channel almost every day of my life for people all over the world now.
What a gift. And I love that you said you had such peace come over you. And I think that's really when people lose a loved one, that's what comforts the most.
Yeah, that's the catalyst. And in his case, it was true. That must have been astonishing to see her there in the room.
It was astonishing. I thought I was losing my mind at first, to be honest. But it was such an imprint in my subconscious mind as well that it's always stuck with me. And over the years too, my mom and I's relationship has of course strengthened and bonded, but it's different now since that initial visit from her. So it's more about just listening to her, hearing her, and picking up on the signs around me too that she so beautifully sends me.
So I have so many questions. I hope we can get through them all. What have been some of the more memorable experiences in being a medium for either an individual or a group?
That's a great question. You know, for me, I believe the biggest lesson plan in having this type of ability is trusting it and knowing that time is not really a real construct. Like we think we have to live here in on human time frame with clocks and calendars, but the reality is that it doesn't exist that way. And so what I found was that when I was beginning opening myself up, I would just trust everything that spirit was giving to me. Some things were like not clear at all in the moment to the person that I was reading for, but I would receive feedback days later, weeks later about these profound validations that happened. So for me, it was a matter of trusting everything that I'm getting, trusting spirit, and letting those validations unfold in divine time with my clients. So one story that I wrote about in my first book actually was about a woman who came to see me. Her father came through and he kept talking about a Susan, and she had no idea who Susan was. He was referencing the fact that it was family and it was very, very important to her. So she had no idea. And about 3 months later, she found out that she had a long lost sister named Susan.
Wow.
Contacted her actually. And so it was for her very healing, of course, mind blowing as well, but just to know that she had that confirmation months prior. And so she always, she told me that when she got this news, even before the person that notified her, told her the name, she knew who it was already because of that reading. So I love when spirit's able to provide those, puzzle pieces, that really do connect to a larger message and picture when it's supposed to. And I find a lot of that in my work daily, actually. So there's so many ways that spirit comes through to validate who they are, and a lot of times when I'm channeling it in front of audiences too, there's so much energy in the room. There's so much incredible validation in the space. And one thing that's coming to mind right now is a lot of times they will want to validate, how they were honored recently, for example. So I remember one time I was giving an audience reading, and this woman's grandfather came through, who she was very close with, and he said, "Thank you for the belt buckle." And she screamed out of panic, and she actually pulled this belt buckle out of her purse that she brought with her to the event, actually. And she had just found it like days prior to, to that reading. So I find that the other side is always orchestrating these events. They're always orchestrating these sort of synchronicities to occur that really help us step out of the ego part of ourselves and step into the all-knowing soul spirit part of ourselves. So that's really what I believe a reading does. And it really helps you understand your own awareness with spirit, because in essence, we are all on this earth walking channels right now for spirit and for light. And I believe that we're coming into that understanding more now than ever before in history.
Absolutely. You next, Lee, because I'll dominate with my questions.
I want to learn. Kryon is always saying that that spirit has a great sense of humor. Have you ever had things to report like that?
100%. One thing that sticks out to me is years ago when I was really starting to understand what was going on in my head. I had a reading with somebody where her father had passed, and again, it's always about interpreting them, right? It's always like a charade base. And so the impression that I was getting was that he was calling himself a dick. And I said, "I'm so sorry, but your dad, he's wanting me to call himself a dick." And she just laughed in hystericals, and she goes, "No, his name is Dick. That's the reason why." And so, yes, they absolutely have a way of being very funny in that way as well. So, and not just that too, but I also feel like spirit's always sort of nudging us to be around people that have a sense of humor as well, because that laughter really does break up grief energy. It breaks up this illusion of this world that we live in. It helps us be more lighthearted. So, of course, who better to show us that than those who are in spirit?
Okay, can I do another one?
Yes.
Because we have some friends who do what you do, and they all have different kinds of things that happen to them, and we're all very unique. We have one who says that she receives messages and she has no idea who they're from. And later on, the connection will be established, or she'll find somebody and say, "Guess what somebody said." Does that happen to you, or do you have to have the person in front of you?
There's always things that are coming to me, even in all aspects of my life. So typically what I do is I will tell them, "Please, please, please come back when I'm with your person, because you're going to confuse me otherwise." A lot of times it'll happen when I'm in the shower, actually, before I begin my day, where, that's a strong current for spirit, is being in water. And so I will be there and I'll start hearing, different names and different scenarios around me. And I'll just say, "Can you come back, please?" It'll look about an hour or so, because again, spirit does not have any attachment to calendars and clocks. They just don't. And so when the medium is receiving those impressions, it's always the case where things come to be afterwards on a different times table than we had originally anticipated. So one thing that's coming to me right now, it goes back actually to my very beginning of me. I think it was the first 3 weeks actually of me opening up to channel for other people. And I had a woman come, and her mother came through, and she kept wanting me to relate to her that she was sending her long lost love. And so I had asked her, "Does that mean anything to you?" And she said, "Well, kinda." She said, "I haven't spoken to my long lost love in, almost a decade. And it was on really precarious circumstances." And so I said, "Okay, well, just keep that with you, And the next day, I have a voicemail from her on my cell phone, hysterical. When she got home that evening from that session, on her answering machine was a voicemail from the individual who she considered her long lost love of almost a decade. So again, it's always very interesting how they are able to orchestrate those events when they come into our physical reality, how shape shifting they are, and how those specific validations really do inspire us and cement our belief system in a knowing, And so I really believe that's Spirit's agenda as well, is to help everyone understand that as much as we are these earthbound bodies right now, ultimately we are the spirit and the essence that operates those bodies.
So I would like to ask a question. How much of a role does the inner child play in all of this? Because we've talked about the cosmic humor of spirit, but I was curious about the role of the inner child.
Love this question. The inner child, for me, I like to give the analogy of the pin light that sort of lights up our physical life, from the very beginning of this journey, is our inner child. It is the most pure source of energy, the most imaginative, the most raw. That's why we see, so many psychic children in the world too, which I think we now call the indigo children, actually. We see that many children have these experiences with the other side. And because we're so vulnerable, 4, 5, 6 years old, we have these experiences, but most of the time we have somebody else outside of us who we put our trust in, who may tell us that what we are experiencing is not true and real. And so what happens is that because we're so open, vulnerable, and these sponges rather for spiritual knowledge, we begin to believe those commands and that programming. And so I believe that coming into this world, our inner child is always with us. It's always accessible. It is the birth of our soul in this life. It's the pin light of who we are. And when we're able to actually understand that and build a language or this communication with that inner child, which ultimately leads to healing from the past as well, but also having this beautiful embrace with your inner child, it's life-changing because you know that you are the one in control. You are the one in the driver's seat. And when you have access to giving that inner child all of your love and all of your compassion, that's truly why we're here in the first place, isn't it? To be able to feel that vibration of love and to be able to share it with those around us is a true connection.
Absolutely. And what are some of the signs or symbols or ways that spirit communicates, not just to you, but how you can explain to your clients that all around us we're constantly receiving messages, and what are they for you?
Absolutely. I always tell everyone that these signs and symbols will always be unique to the individual. It's not like a one size fits all type of ideology with it. So for me, I can always say that my mom is very creative with how she gets my attention. But from the very beginning, her sign has always been a white butterfly to me. And it's something that is so beautiful and so amazing that I see it every day in some way, shape, or form, whether it be a physical butterfly flying up and circling me, or it could be I'm on the freeway and a car gets in front of me that has a white butterfly sticker on the back of it. She also likes to use the number 143 because back in the 90s, we had pagers and we used to text each other 143 for I love you. And so I will see that in the most beautiful ways on receipts, again, on license plates. My phone will light up randomly at 143. So there's so many beautiful ways that she gets my attention. But I've heard some incredible stories, and also what Spirit's been able to validate too during sessions or thereafter about how these symbols take place. And I always want to encourage people because, again, we do have a rational side and we have a spirit side to ourselves. So I always want to let them know that I would encourage them to be open to receiving those symbols in threes. For some reason, I've always been under the impression with my guides that these threes that we're surrounded with really do sort of show us that it's real versus a coincidence, which I don't believe in the word anyways, coincidence. But sometimes our rational mind needs to have that ultimate trust in knowing. So I always tell people, ask for it in threes, and give yourself a couple of days to be able to experience that phenomena as well. But the more that you acknowledge those signs and those symbols, the more that they're going to give them to you. And so a story that's coming to mind right now is I met someone at a taping of a show several years ago, and I was there to talk about my second book. And she had spoken about how her dad sent her paper clips. And it was so interesting because I had never heard of that before. I had never heard of anyone ever receiving paper clips before, but she had explained to me how significant it was and that they had this inside joke about paper clips. And it was very, very specific to the two of them. And she always found two paper clips side by side. And so for her, she had that authentic knowing already that it was her dad. And that's really why they do it. It's for them to give us this ultimate knowing that we're never alone.
Wow.
Absolutely, that's amazing. I love the two paper clips.
I'm also curious on how much of your work involves the contacting of children, past children.
Absolutely. It's very common within my work. I find that because my mother had such challenges in this world with drug and alcohol addiction, that part of her agenda with me and sort of our contract together, I feel very strongly, is that she definitely sends people to me that need the same type of confirmation or that have passed in a similar way. So she is sort of like this archetype as a healer on the other side that helps people transition that have passed in a similar way to her. So I find that many people that will come to me will have a scenario like that. But as the world is changing and evolving right now, it's very, very, very heavy and common actually to have the younger souls come through that are exiting very quickly right now as well. And it's also one of the most rewarding things for me to bring through a child, but also equally, it's always a beautiful honor and a responsibility to bring through anyone who wants to get our attention.
Did you feel, or do you ever feel overwhelmed where there's an incident where you have many people that cross over? For example, the fires in Maui when they came and a lot of people lost their lives.
All at once,
and
yeah.
It just breaks our heart.
Yeah.
And so do you feel when events like that and happen, like COVID as well, in COVID, so many people lost their loved ones through that incident. What's it from your perspective when you feel a lot of souls that are crossing over?
I always consider it a reunion actually, because we have this human ideology of labeling death as something that is, very, very painful and negative. But death is just as natural as our birth is into this world. And so I think that's very important to always understand that being in this world, it's a natural process of our life journey. And so when we talk about that, I have been getting a lot of things from my guides about them talking about the great exodus right now happening on the earth. And so I feel like these sort of condensed exit points for these souls are going to continue at a rapid rate as we enter this new vibration, this new reality on the earth plane. So I wouldn't say that I have anything dramatic happen within my world, because people are exiting the world every day physically, and so these are just more condensed moments in time of those exits.
I'm going to ask you a question. Every psychic medium I've ever talked to knows the answer to this. I know you will too, but it's great to hear you explain it. Tell me the difference between the conscious self and the unconscious self.
Absolutely. So this goes back to what I call our ego self and our spirit self, right? And so when we know that how to have this discernment between these two spheres of who we are, our human self and our soul self, our subconscious self and our conscious self, our awake self and our sleep self, having that understanding is paramount in knowing how we are existing between these worlds, because we are traveling there, every night as well when we're in our sleep state and we're conscious here, and we're bringing back that awareness in our everyday life right now. So our subconscious self is our intuitive self. It's our spirit self. It's that inner child part of us that is so dialed in to the other side already. What happens is that our human side, our rational side, is so ingrained to want to have a pattern or a rhythm that it can create fear. It can create anxiety about these things. But once we are able to sort of quiet down that part of ourself, that ego part of ourself that we all have, or we wouldn't be here, then we're able to truly sit in the power to understand what our power is and what our connection is. And that's always going to be through our subconscious self.
Well, I want to remind people that if they want to connect with Bill and have a look at the wonderful books he's written, his website is very simple. It is billphillips.com. But I want to just point out that there's sometimes many ways of spelling Phillips. And so it's Bill, B-I-L-L, and Phillips is P-H-I-L-I-P-P-S.
One L, two P's.
One L, two P's, billphillips.com. Yeah. And is there any kind of, message that you really want to share with our community that you really want them to understand in terms of mediumship and, like you said, the cycle that we're in and the natural death as much as the natural birth?
Absolutely. What I would like to share is that we are so involved with the co-creation right now of our lives. And every single one of us is having our own type of reality that we are consciously creating right now as well. And within that, I like to call it our orbit. When you're in your orbit and when you're in that space, you are pulling more of that energy into that orbit space. So I want to encourage everyone to make their intention love right now, make their intention kindness, because we never know what someone's going through on that level, of grief in many different ways. But I do know, though, that when we're able to go within and we're able to access that light and that vibration of love, and we're able to transmit it out of ourselves, that's when a healing takes place as well. And you don't have to be a working medium to do that. We are all designed to be able to give that energy source out to the universe and to everyone else on this earth. So I would encourage everyone just to really take stock of your energy right now, to understand that you do have the power to make a positive change in your day with those around you. And ultimately, that's going to be from within. So thinking energy, understanding your energy first and who you are on that level of spirit is mind shifting. It helps you understand your true nature here and also in the universe. And when you're able to connect on that level of love, you're able to transcend all of sort of the challenges that this life can bring.
So beautiful.
That's a good example. Good explanation.
Yeah, and one tip where for you find it so easy to connect in with that space inside of you. What is it for you that really just puts you right there every time?
For me, it's definitely going into the heart space, and it's become very much second nature of kind of going within. So it sort of feels like a pendulum swinging from one side to the other, like a tick and a talk. And so it's just knowing that it's so a part of who we are already, and that knowing is so important. So for me personally, I like to use vibration or even sounds of music to pull me into that part of myself that channels in that space. And so for every person, that will look differently. But for me specifically, vibration and sound is what pulls me into that space very, very effortlessly.
Oh, and that's the background of being the opera singer.
Yeah, I'll say.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I am so
you, Bill.
delighted with everything that you shared
Yeah.
and all the hearts that you will continue to heal and that beautiful perspective. So any last words from you, Lee, as well?
No, it's just that this does my heart so good, especially to hear the validations of others and know it. And I know personally for myself,
Yes.
from the mediums we've spoken of and the people that they have serviced, that there is life after death. I even call it life after life.
Life after life.
Life after life. And that your loved ones are not gone, folks. They're just not. They change energy, and there's so much communication, more than ever before. I think that we are awakening, even the mainstream is awakening to things that they would never have ever thought that were real before. Now they're saying, could it be? And then people like Bill come along and say, let me show you.
Yeah. Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was an honor to be here today to share with you. And thank you for the amazing work that you're also contributing to humanity.
Well, wonderful. That was so delightful having that conversation. And we are now going to take a 10-minute break. So go and have a look at billphillips.com, the website, and then we'll see you back here for the Circle of 12.
Always the same from Kryon. First of all, be patient, but you have to affirm it in a way, not just saying the words, you know it's coming.
Yeah. I also feel that when you're in the energy of benevolence and sending benevolent energy, to me, you get feedback from how you create coherence between your heart and your brain and the field that radiates out from you.
Yeah.
So an example is, Lee, when you saw someone in a car accident in Hawaii with your sister, she pulled over and the both of you prayed for that person. Now, did it make a difference?
It sure made us feel better.
It absolutely made you
But
feel
we
better.
knew we were doing the right thing. What do I mean feel better? But we were doing something that was making a difference, and we knew it when we were doing it.
Absolutely.
So these are the kinds of things. It's got to be more internal, I think, than looking for an outside thing to click over and say, yep, you did it right. So you have to know it inside.
You know what's fun? Is that we have the power to ask for signs and synchronicities.
I sure did when I was getting into this. Yes,
Yeah,
you do.
so it's and that's why some affirmations where I have said, show me a sign, bring me the answers I need in a way that I will see. And it's a dialogue that we have with spirit, with our guides, with the loving entourage that's around us. We're not in a vacuum, as you said. We can ask for, send me a sign. Or if this is meant to be, show me a feather. And then just put out a fleece like that.
It could be something as simple as the numbers on a clock or something you see. Or and just recently in my life, I've had a couple of things fluently come together when I went, thank you, because I got it, you know. So we're still doing it, but it has to be more internal than external, I would say the answer.
Yeah, internal, not external. And so speaking of internal, what do you think? We do a meditation and a channel.
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me too. So this is a time of evening or morning or whenever you're watching the replay, if you're not joining us on the chat, that is your time, your personal time to come home into yourself, to tune in and connect with the divine spark that is always with you 24/7 and only wants the most benevolent outcome for your life. So this is your opportunity free of distractions, free of all the things you have to do, to come home to the spark of divinity within you. So I invite you to close your eyes and focus on the energy within your heart. And as you focus on the energy within your heart, let us extend that focus to be the space that exists around your heart. And as you focus on that space that surrounds your heart, you are reminded of an electromagnetic field that radiates well beyond the organ that is known as your heart. How big is your heart energy? How far does your heart energy reach? If you are in love with someone and they are far away on the planet, does your heart energy reach that person that you so dearly love? And if that love is reciprocated to you, how far does their heart energy reach across the planet and touch you? And so this is the internalness that exists within us, that is far beyond the 3D reality that we want to experience with our senses, our 3D senses. And yet, we have a multi-dimensional attribute within us that requires multi-dimensional senses to be able to perceive their effect. And one other way that we can perceive this effect is how we can feel the love that is radiating out. And so we can see and feel the effects of love. And it is generated from an internal engine within us. And so let this feeling, this connection with the internal engine of love be your way of measuring things, if you will, of discerning things, if you will. And when you discern and feel and sense things using this engine of love inside you, that is when you connect in with the divine spark that is wanting to be found and to tell you you are dearly loved. And so from this place of being dearly, dearly loved, we want to continue the love wash with the entourage that comes through Lee, the entourage known as Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. The topic at hand, the answer to the question, the meditation, it all is relative to what we are going to discuss. This is the third week, and the theme is evolution, really, and not simple evolution, it's consciousness evolution. Can you feel yourself intuitively changing in how you think and how you react? And the answer for many is yes. And the odd thing about that yes is they haven't necessarily been practicing it. It's simply starting to occur. If you are a light worker, someone who is watching this program, the complete one, You're probably aware we have spoken many times about the energy here on this planet, which is different. An energy which seems to be awakening many who are ready for it. More than just an awakening, this is what we told you might be coming. A time when human beings start to think differently. And against all odds, against what you see on the news,